Hello and welcome to another program of Books of the Book. My name is Davey Rodriguez and we are studying the Gospel of John. And with us is Dr. John Pauline. He is the Dean of Religion in Loma Linda, California. Is that right?
Loma Linda University,
Linda University.
Which is in Loma Linda, California.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Now you told us before what you did, and tell us briefly again, what is it that you do as a dean?
Yeah, Dean of the School of Religion. Loma Linda is divided into 8 schools. You have a School of Medicine, a School of Dentistry, School of Pharmacy, and so on, School of Behavioral Health, and then the School of Religion. And so each of these has a function within the university as a whole, but the School of Religion has a special function because we teach classes in all the other programs. And so it's my job to coordinate
So all the students from all those schools come to this department?
Yeah, they're expected to take at least something like 8% of their classes in religion.
About how many students do you have for those
Well,
classes?
this year there's 4,650 students at Loma Linda, and every one of them takes at least one religion class. So
Wow.
we have about 5,000 plus students, you know, that study from us in a given year.
That keeps you very busy.
Yeah, and in a sense, this is almost like a vacation.
Yes, good. Vacation studying the Bible.
That's right.
That's amazing.
I enjoy doing that.
The last program we were talking on the prologue, and we didn't touch on verse 7, which is going to talk about, or verse 6, which talks about John, or John the Baptist.
Do you remember when we talked about that? We talked about poetry.
Yes.
Well, as you go through the prologue, most of it is poetry-like language, but the parts on John the Baptist are not. And so we kind of let those aside, but they provide a foundation for the rest of chapter 1, which is what we're going to talk about this time.
Okay.
Now, you're aware it doesn't say John the Baptist.
No.
It just says John.
Right.
You see, so John the Baptist is something, yeah, I'm not trying to offend Baptists or anything, but John the Baptist is a term we've given to him because John was baptizing people. But it's interesting, the author of the book, who is John, never names himself. So some people have suggested that, you know, he's using this other John to kind of drop a hint at least of who's really behind the book.
Okay. So shall we read?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
And we are in the Gospel of John, chapter 1, and starting from verse 6. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. This man came for a witness to bear witness of the light, that all through him might believe. He was not the light, but was sent to bear witness of that light.
So here you see it's talking about John, and we discover later on he's the John who baptizes people, not the author of this gospel. And he's sent from God, so he's very, very important. And he came to witness to the light, it says. And if you remember in the first part of the prologue, he was the light, you know, and the light shone in the darkness and so forth. So this is referring to Jesus. So John has come to testify concerning that light. So his mission was to come first and get famous, so to speak, and then he would draw people's attention to Jesus. That was the fundamental mission of the Baptist. But it says he was not that light. Now, why would he have to say that? You know, are there some people maybe who think John the Baptist was the true light? Maybe he was the Messiah. He was not that light. He only came to witness to the light. You remember we talked about the chiasm, that pyramid? Well, there's a counterpart here in verse 15 that basically repeats the same thing. So why don't you read verse 15?
John bore witness of him and cried out, saying, This was he of whom I said, He who comes after me is preferred before me, for he was before me.
So here's it interesting. John testifies concerning Jesus and says, he's the one who comes after me but he is before me. It's like a riddle.
Right.
You know, he's after me, but he's before me. Now, does that make any sense to someone who knows the gospel? How would that make sense? Because Jesus, who came down to us, we were here before Jesus. Let's say the people who met Jesus, you know, they were there first, and Jesus shows up, but he's really before because he was with God from eternity. So right at the beginning of this prologue, he's with God for eternity. So he's greater, he's before. But when he shows up, he's coming after John. Now, usually the person who introduces somebody is considered greater than the one they're introducing. Because why would they be introducing that person? Nobody knows who this is. You know, they know me, so I'm going to introduce him. I'm the big guy, you know. So the role of introduction is a big role for the person who gives it. So people could look at this and say, well, John introduced Jesus. He must have been the big guy, you see. So this is actually locating where John is in the scheme of things. So these verses here set the table for the rest of the chapter. And it's going to tell us the story of John and how he introduced Jesus.
Now, John the Baptist, and when we say John the Baptist, even though it doesn't
It's comfortable for us, so let's do it.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So this John the Baptist, then, what was his role, and how did he testify of that light?
Well, that gets elaborated starting with verse 19. And the rest of the chapter goes through verse 51, and most of it is about John the Baptist.
Okay.
Yeah. So why don't you take a look at verses 19 to 23.
Now this is the testimony of John, when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who are you?" He confessed and did not deny, but confessed, "I am not the Christ." And they asked him, What then? Are you Elijah? He said, I am not. Are you the prophet? And he answered, No. Then they said to him, Who are you, that we may give an answer to those who sent us? What do you say about yourself? He said, I am the voice of one crying in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord.
Now, you notice a pattern in here? What is he repeatedly doing?
He's saying no.
I'm not this. I'm not
He's
that.
denying.
I'm not the other thing. He's denying. What did he say back in verse 7, I think it was? He was not that light. So the big story about John the Baptist in the Gospel of John is not. He's constantly saying, he's not this, he's not that, he's not that. Why would that even be necessary? Unless somebody that the author of this gospel is dealing with is seeing John the Baptist as really, really significant. And so that's something we'll come back to a little bit later in this program. But you see, whenever John appears, he's lowering himself. Are you the Messiah? No. Are you Elijah? No. Are you the prophet? No. Well, who are you, for crying out loud? Say something. So John is constantly denying. Now, this is a real story that happened. But John has to tell this story because evidently some people were maybe putting John in too high a place. In the wedding of Cana story, Jesus sort of puts his mother in her place. Why would that need to be told? You know, that's a little detail. Couldn't you just have left that out and just told the story without that? Well, it would seem from what we know of ancient times that Mary started getting put a little too high. That people were seeing Mary as equal with Jesus or even greater than Jesus. And so in the Gospel of John, Mary is kind of, you know, she's honored, but she's in a subordinate position. Jesus is the one that tells her what to do. She's trying to tell him what to do. No, Jesus is the one who tells Mary what to do. So, you know, there's a major commentary on John by a Catholic priest makes that point, you know, which you might think is surprising, but he's simply being honest with the text. You know, John wants to be clear, no one is greater than Jesus, not the Baptist, not Mary, not the temple, not Moses, you see. All the other competitors Jesus is better than. Moses is good, Jesus is better. Temple is good, Jesus is better. Baptist is good, Jesus is better. You see, he is truly the greatest. That's the message that comes through here.
And those people who either sent him or asked John these questions, did they believe or somehow have this idea that he was that light? That's
the impression we get when you study this book carefully, that apparently there were some people who didn't get the memo, what's being described in this book. And John's purpose for existence was to point Jesus out when he comes. But there were some that saw the ministry of John as the greatest of the prophets, you see. And Jesus even called him that at one place. Among all the prophets, there's none greater than John. That he is really right there at the pinnacle. So evidently there were some people who saw John as the real deal and never really got too excited about Jesus. And so here it's clarifying that role. So let's go on to verse, 24 through 28.
Now those who were sent were from the Pharisees, and they asked him, saying, "Why then do you baptize if you are not the Christ, nor Elijah, nor the prophet?" John answered them, saying, "I baptize with water, but there stands one among you whom you do not know. It is he who, coming after me, is preferred before me, whose sandal strap I am not worthy to loose. These things were done in Bethabara, beyond the Jordan, where John was baptizing."
Here's another amazing statement, why are you baptizing if you're not Christ, Elijah, or the prophet? And he says, well, because somebody greater is coming after me. And notice what it says in my translation, the thongs of whose sandals I am not worthy to untie. In those days, it was great to be a scholar, because your students not only sat in your classes, they were supposed to wait on your hand and foot, wash your car, mow your lawn, do all that kind of stuff, you see. But there was one thing a student was not required to do for his teacher, and that's to, take his shoes on and off. That was thought to be too demeaning, the act of a slave.
Yeah.
And here John is saying, this one that is coming is so great, I'm not worthy even to put his shoes on or off. The actions of a slave would be too great for me to even consider. He is really putting himself down, and it makes you wonder what is going on behind the scenes here. Remember that in verse 23, I think it was, John is actually saying that I came to prepare the way of the Lord. That's from Isaiah. If you go back to Isaiah, it's the way of Yahweh. So there's the hint right there that this is not just a Messiah, this is not just a great human being. God himself is coming, and John is introducing God. And if he understands that, what we saw in the prologue, then yeah, he wouldn't even want to untie the sandals. This person is so great, but he walks among us. Tells you something about God.
Well, friends, we are studying the Gospel of John, and this is very exciting. So continue to be with us after this break.